Hi friends, I'm Ashley and welcome back to my channel. So at the time of filming this video, it's Sunday, August 24th. So that means September is right around the corner, and so fall is also right around the corner, which I'm really excited for fall. It's my favorite time of year. And so today's video is going to be a reading vlog with fall vibes. So I'm going to be reading a couple books with fall vibes and also maybe doing some fall activities as well this week, such as baking, crafting, and maybe watching a fall movie. So the first book I'm going to be reading in this video is The Cinnamon Bun Bookshop by Lori Gilmore. So I actually started this yesterday and I am on page 73, chapter 8. And so this is the second book in the Dream Harbor series, which is a series of interconnected standalones, so you don't have to read them in order. And last year I read the first book, The Pumpkin Spice Cafe, which that one I enjoyed and it had really good fall vibes, but I found the romance only okay in that one. I do feel like the romance had too much steam like all at the end of the book. And then at springtime, I read the third book in the series, A Strawberry Pancake House, because I wanted spring vibes at the time. And that one was like very much a pleasant surprise because I ended up loving that one. I loved the romance and the characters so much, and I thought the steamy scenes in that one were very well interspersed in the book, unlike the first one. And now I'm going back to read the second one, The Cinnamon Bun Bookshop, because the two main characters in this one were featured in the third book, and I really liked their characters. And also, this book takes place at the end of summer and then transitions into fall, and so I thought now would be a perfect time to read it because it is the end of summer, it is August, and this book starts in August. And so this book follows 29-year-old Hazel, who in a couple of months she is going to be turning 30, and she's kind of having a crisis about that because she realizes that she hasn't really done anything with her 20s. She feels like her 20s is supposed to be a time of like adventure and recklessness and trying new things, and she hasn't done that. She's pretty much just spent her days working at a bookshop, which she loves, but she feels like she should be doing something more. And so one day she ends up realizing that a book is crooked on the shelf. So she goes to fix it, but she realizes not only is it in the wrong section, but also someone dog aired it. And so she opens it and sees that someone also highlighted a line in it. And that line reads, "Come with me, lass, if you want an adventure." And so she feels like it's personally speaking to her because she was just thinking about how she needs to go on an adventure and do something before she turns 30. But at the same time, she's kind of like, it's probably just a coincidence. But then, not too long after that, she ends up finding another book that also is dog-eared and has an underlined line in it. So now she starts to think that like maybe it isn't a coincidence and that someone is leaving her these messages. And so she decides that she is going to follow the messages and kind of go on a scavenger hunt and make the most of the last couple months of summer and her 20s before she turns 30. And joining her in this adventure and scavenger hunt is our love interest, Noah. And Noah is 25 and he came to Dream Harbor a couple years ago and he owns and runs a fishing tour company. And so the two of them, they like each other, but they're in that situation where they don't think they're each other's types, and so they think that the other could never fall for them. Even though Hazel's friend always says that Noah has the hots for her, but Hazel's like, no, he doesn't. There's no way. And so far, the two of them are just really cute. And Hazel, like, I totally relate to her. She's definitely the main female character that I've related to the most out of this series so far, because she talks about how she's always been responsible and how she kind of feels like she has been in her 30s since she's been 15, just because of the way that she acts and how she's never really been rebellious or reckless, and I can totally relate to that. And she also mentions that she is more of an indoor person than an outdoor person, and I can also really relate to that. And so I'm just having a really fun and cute time with this so far, and I'm really excited to read more and see Hazel and Noah's relationship grow and see like the adventure that they go on. And then the second book I want to try to get to this week is actually a YA fantasy, and it's Midnight at the Houdini. And so while this one doesn't have like pumpkins or anything on it, I feel like it's going to have the magical and mysterious vibes that I associate with the fall season. And so this is about a girl who ends up getting trapped in a magical hotel and she has to escape the hotel before midnight or she will be stuck there forever. And so I've been wanting to read this one for like a year now, so I'm really excited to finally be getting to it. Also, the back of this, it says, "Remember, it's only magic," and that is totally giving me Caraval vibes, which I love this series, so I'm really excited for this one. And this one's also supposed to be a standalone as well, which is also exciting because that means I won't be starting another series. Hi, so it's now Wednesday, August 27th, and I finished reading the Cinnamon Bun Bookshop this morning, and I ended up loving it. Like, this series, the Dream Harbor series, and the characters in the series are starting to worm their way right into my heart. So the first one, the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, I thought was good but wasn't amazing. And then the next one I read, which was the Strawberry Pancake House, which I think I said in my earlier update, it's the third book in the series, but it's actually the fourth book of the series. But that one I ended up loving, and now I loved this one. And I think that Hazel, the main female character, and the love interest in this one, Noah, are my favorite characters so far in the entire series. I just love them so much. I love how Hazel is a bookworm and how she runs a bookshop and how she always brings a book with her wherever she goes, just in case. And I love how Hazel gets Noah into reading. And he remarks how before this, he never would have thought like he would be reading 500-page fantasy books in a week, but now he is, and he's just loving it. And I just love how they bond over their love of reading. And I love how Noah gets Hazel to try things that are outside her comfort zone and how she ends up realizing things about herself. And similarly, Hazel also helps Noah realize some things and helps him to finally face insecurities that he has been running from. And that's the other thing I loved was I just loved Noah's backstory in this book so much. And this book is very steamy, but that being said, I felt like all the steamy scenes were well done and that none of them were just like thrown in there just to be there. I thought that they all helped in showing the progression of Noah and Hazel's relationship. And speaking of the relationship, I want to share one of my favorite quotes from the book. So it reads, "He was summer and she was fall. He was adventure and she was comfort. But right now, on the cusp between the two seasons, in this liminal space they carved out for themselves, they fit just right." And I just love that quote so much because throughout the entirety of the story, Noah and Hazel like each other, but they don't think the other one likes them back because they feel like they're not right for each other, that they don't fit. So that's kind of the thing that they're struggling with throughout the entirety of this book is just realizing that they can work. And so there isn't really any silly drama in the relationship between the two of them, which I really appreciated because I just really hate when there is drama from stupid things that could have easily been solved if the characters would just like communicate. But like the problem that they have is very feels very realistic and real to me, and I feel like it is handled very well. And one thing I want to mention is that I feel like this book overall has summer vibes because the majority of it does take place in summer, and there's hot weather and beach trips and boat rides, and all those I associate with summertime. But that being said, like it does take place near the end of summer. So at the end of the book, you do get a little bit of fall vibes. And Thanksgiving also happens at the end of the book as well. So I feel like this would be a good book to read at the end of summer in either August or even early September. And so those are all my thoughts on Swim Bun Bookstore. I loved it. I definitely recommend it if you like spicy, cozy romance stories. And on the flip side of that, if you don't like spicy stories, then I would not recommend this because there is quite a bit of spice in it. And after reading this one, now I will definitely be reading like all the other books in this series. So I know after this one, the third book is a Christmas one. I already read the fourth book. And then the fifth book, The Gingerbread Bakery, comes out this September on the 16th. And this one I'm actually really excited for now because the two main characters of that one, Annie and Mac, actually feature quite a bit in the Cinnamon Bun bookstore, and I am really excited to read their story because they are very much like rivals and have like enemy vibes going on. And Annie runs a bakery, which I love any books that have a bakery setting, and then Mac runs a diner. And so I am really excited for that one. All right, so that is that. So next, I am going to move on to Midnight at the Houdini. But before I start this, I do want to go make some cookies. And I'm going to make maple shortbread cookies with a maple cream filling. And I made these cookies last year for the first time, and they're just amazing. They have a very strong maple flavor, and I had been looking for like quite some time for a really good, strong maple flavored cookie, and these are it. And so, if you are interested in such a cookie, I will link the recipe down below. And I actually already made the dough for them earlier because it had to chill. And the dough should now be about ready to continue. So, I am going to go do that now. It's now Sunday, August 31st, and I am here with a reading update, which I totally went off TBR. I did not start Midnight at the Houdini, and instead I read A Pack for Autumn by Amelia Emerson. And this is a book that I heard Jess from Peace Love Books talk about on her channel, and so ever since she talked about it, I was interested in checking it out. And so I thought I'll just listen to the audiobook while making my cookies, and then after that start Midnight at the Houdini. That is not what happened. Instead, I became obsessed and I just had to keep reading more. And so I listened to it on audio, but then I also ended up downloading the physical copy on my Kindle as well. And so A Pack for Autumn is a Why Choose Omegaverse romance. And I've never read an Omegaverse or Why Choose book before. So this was something new for me. And so a Why Choose romance is essentially a reverse harem. And then the author actually has an intro to Omegaverse and tells you what it is about at the beginning of the book, which I really appreciated since I've never read one before. And so she says this is a Why Choose Omegaverse, and Why Choose means that our female main character doesn't have to choose between her guys for her happily ever after. And while each Omegaverse is different, in general, it's an alternative world where society is composed of 3 different types of individuals: alphas, omegas, and betas. And so everyone is born into one of these, which influences their biology and personality. All the characters are fully human and they do not shift into animals. And then it goes on to explain what alphas and omegas are in detail. So our main character in this is Olive, and she has recently moved to the small town of Starlight Grove to be their lighthouse keeper, and she plans to just keep to herself because she's very shy and introverted and has a lot of social anxiety. But the 3 love interests in this book, Easton, Lars, and Finn, have different plans. So they see her and they immediately know that she is their mate, and so they are determined to court her. And overall, this book just felt very cute and cozy, although it was very, very steamy. But even with all the spice that was in this book, it still overall just felt like a warm hug of a book. Hi, future editing Ashley here. So I realized when I was editing this that for whatever reason, I end up calling Olive Ivy throughout the rest of this segment of the video. And so I don't know what was going through my mind, but Ivy is another character in this book. She's a minor character, and she's also actually the main character in the second book. And so somehow I mixed up her and Olive. Just going forward, know that whenever I say Ivy, I actually mean Olive. The guys, the 3 love interests in this, just want Ivy to be happy and just want to be able to be there for her. And so I just loved seeing the relationship develop between them. And then in addition to that, there is also another group of girls who are omegas in the town that immediately pull Ivy into their little friend group. And so their whole friend group was very wholesome as well. And then just like the whole town in general just has like such a strong sense of community. And I also have to mention that there is a cat in here named Felix, or as Ivy calls him, she calls him Sir Cat at the beginning because she doesn't know his name. And he is such an adorable mischief maker of a cat. And so when Ivy first moves in, he's always hanging around the lighthouse, and so she names him Sir Cat. And he's always kind of there to comfort her in the beginning. And then later on, you find out that his name is actually Felix, and he's just like a stray cat that wanders the town. And he'll stay at different people's houses every night. But since Ivy moved in, he's just been staying at the lighthouse. And also, when there are town meetings and there is a vote and there is a tie, he is the one who breaks the tie. And so, at the beginning of the book, there is a vote to see who is going to restore the lighthouse, what construction company, and it's between an out-of-town construction company and the love interest's construction company. And so there's a tie, and Felix ends up breaking it, and of course he chooses the love interest's construction company, and it's kind of like he knows that Ivy needs them, and so like he's kind of like a little matchmaker. So he's just like an adorable part of the story. And at the end, the epilogue is actually from his point of view, and it kind of sets up the next book to come in this series. And one of the other things that added to the coziness of this story was the autumn vibes. So this story has like all the fall vibes. So first you have Ivy, who her full name is Ivy Autumn Harvest, which is kind of a cheesy name, but is also very appropriate for this book and the tone of the book. And then Ivy herself, she has a scent that smells like pumpkin spice. And then one of the love interests' scents is maple. And also there is a harvest festival in here, and also there is a coffee shop in the town that is known for their pumpkin spice lattes. So those are all my thoughts on A Pack for Autumn. I love this book. I'm giving it 5 stars, and I'll definitely be checking out the other books in this series. So next, for real this time, I'm going to be starting Midnight at the Houdini. So I'll be back once I have some thoughts on this. years later, and I am back with reading update. I have made it to chapter 15, page 109. And so far, I am enjoying this. I'm finding it very intriguing. So first, let me tell you a little bit more about the story, and then I'll talk some more about my thoughts. So chapter 1 introduces us to our main female character, Anna. And in that chapter, she is 10 years old and she's attending a birthday party. And she says how it's the fanciest birthday party that she's ever been to, and that the house is castle-like, and that there's a miniature Ferris wheel, a cotton candy machine, and unicorn rides. And so she's excited to be there, but also nervous because the birthday girl is her age, but she doesn't know her, and she really doesn't know anyone at this party. And the only reason her and her family were invited is because her father is a very successful hotel manager, and his latest hotel in Las Vegas has been doing really well. And so Anna really needs to make a good impression on the people and the other kids her age at this party, because she's going to be going to school with these kids. But unfortunately, the night does not go well, and the other kids her age actually end up ostracizing her and making fun of her. And so she ends up running off to hide in a gazebo. And when she's at this gazebo, a magician ends up coming by and tries to cheer her up. While she finds his tricks interesting, she doesn't really believe in magic. So he tries his best to cheer her up, and then he leaves. But one of his tricks was that he just kept pulling out handkerchiefs. And the magician ends up leaving the handkerchiefs on the ground, so Anna goes to clean them up, and she realizes one of them has something inside it, and inside the handkerchief is an earring. But it's not just any earring. It looks exactly like Anna's older sister Emily's earring. The earring that Anna recently lost, and is the reason that Emily isn't speaking to Anna and is mad at her. And so Anna can't explain at all how that earring got there, but she refuses to believe that it was magic that caused it. So after that, we go to chapter 2, where we are introduced to our male love interest, Max. And the thing that's really interesting about chapter 2 is that the first 2 lines of that chapter are the same first 2 lines that are in chapter 1. So those lines read, "The night is perfect and glorious and sparkling, too beautiful to be real, like magic." And so I just love how those 2 lines draw a connection between Anna and Max. But also at the same time, it also kind of contrasts them as well, because you learn that Max, unlike Anna, actually believes in magic. And you see that in his chapter. And then after chapter 2, we go to chapter 3, where Anna is now 16 years old, and it is currently her older sister Emily's wedding day, so her sister is 5 years older than her. Hello, editing Ashley here, once more, to say that, once again, I messed up names, and for whatever reason, I started calling Emily Emma in this next segment, which is weird because I was calling her Emily, but then I just started calling her Emma. So just know that whenever I say Emma, I actually mean Emily. And Anna planned Emma's whole wedding so that she could have her dream wedding, and so far everything is going according to plan, everything's going smoothly. That is until Anna's father reveals that he has a surprise for Emma. And that surprise is that he has purchased a house for Emma in New York so she can follow her dreams of becoming a designer. And Emma is really happy about this, but Anna is devastated because Anna thought that Emma and her husband were going to live somewhere in Las Vegas nearby. And so Anna had planned her entire life around that. And ever since that party 10 years ago, where she was put in that horrible position, she now plans out every single part of her life because she refuses to be caught off guard like that again. And also she's devastated because she also loves her sister, and her sister is like her best friend, and she can't see life without her sister nearby. And so even though Anna is devastated, she puts on a brave face and pretends that everything is okay so she doesn't ruin her sister's big day. So the day ends with Emma and her husband going off to her honeymoon, and Anna and her father and his business partners end up getting into a car to go home. But on their way home, the weather suddenly turns horrific and they get a warning on their phones that there's a tornado on the way. And so they're still really far from their house, so they decide to seek shelter at one of her father's hotels. But before they can get there, a telephone pole ends up landing on their car. And because of that, they can't open the back doors of the car. So Emma ends up sliding through the partition to the front of the car and gets out that way, and her father tells her to go to the hotel and seek shelter. And so she does that, but when she gets to the hotel, there is no one in the lobby. No one at the front desk, no bellboys, no valets, no one at all. And then she goes to try to open the door to leave the hotel, and she can't get the door to open again. So she ends up exploring the hotel, and she eventually runs into Max. And he tries to tell her that the hotel is magic, but she doesn't want to believe him, even though she has already seen like strange things in the hotel that really can't be explained. But then he says something even more worrying to her, which is that anyone who enters the hotel never leaves. And he tells her on page 108, the last chapter that I read, he says, "Anna, if you believe nothing else I tell you, believe this. When that clock reaches the next midnight, you're going to be stuck here forever, just like the rest of them." So apparently people who come to the hotel, they never leave. And once they've been there for a full day, they end up turning into ghosts. So that's worrisome, and that is where I'm at so far in the story. And so far, I am enjoying this. I am finding the plot of this and the mystery of the hotel and what exactly is going on with it to be very intriguing. We have the plot with Anna where she is trying to figure out what is going on with this hotel and trying to find out if her father is okay. And most of the chapters are from her perspective in third person, but you also get some chapters that are not from her perspective. So you get chapters from Max's mother, who is the mastermind of this hotel, and apparently she has some sort of grudge against Anna's father and his business partners, and so it seems like she's lured them to this hotel for reasons. And adding to that, we also get some chapters where we are following Anna's father and his business partners and their experience with the hotel. And that way, those differently chapter perspectives are reminding me a tiny bit of the Night Circus, and actually this book is mentioned in here. So at one point, Max asks Anna like what her favorite book is, because both of them are avid readers, and she says The Night Circus, which I thought was cool. But the only thing about that is she mentions that she read this when she was 9 years old, and I feel like this doesn't seem like something a 9-year-old would read. And that's the only thing. I feel like Anna's character feels a little off to me so far because she feels older than 16. Though I do know like her whole personality is that she does act older than her age because of her family situation and having to be the responsible one. But even like despite that being a part of her personality, I still feel like that's very strange that she read The Night Circus at 9 years old. And also like she mentions in the beginning that she planned her sister's whole wedding out by herself, and again, that doesn't seem like something a typical 16-year-old would do, but I kind of feel like that is maybe slightly more believable than reading The Night Circus at 9 years old, but I don't know. But that's like my only complaint about her character so far. Other than that, her character has been fine. And then in contrast to her character though, the love interest, I love his character so far. And so our love interest Max, he is very much reading as like a foil to Anna because he's very much just like goes with the flow, and he doesn't feel the need to like plan out every single step of his life or to like be able to explain everything away like she does. So yeah, those are really all my thoughts so far because I'm not too far into it, but just know that I'm really enjoying it so far and I want to know more about what is up with this hotel. And I also want to see Anna and Max's relationship get developed more because I feel like the relationship is going to be really cute. Hi, so it is now Tuesday night and I'm just here with a quick little update because I'm currently reading Midnight at the Houdini. And I'm on chapter 25, page 201, And the romance right now, the romance is being so cute and making me giddy, so I had to update. And it's really that type of innocent YA romance that I really love. And so that's happening right now, and it's just making my heart so happy. I want to read a little passage from the end of chapter 24 that just like shows how cute and adorable the romance is being right now. And this passage is from an Anna chapter perspective. So it reads, he holds out his hand, and without really thinking too hard, without considering if it's awkward or weird or moving too fast, or if he might break her heart or she might break his, definitely not thinking about the fact that they only known each other a couple of hours, and this is completely insane and no way logical, and that she might disappear in a few more hours anyway. Anna takes it. Their fingers interlace, their palms pressing together like a prayer. She has never held anyone's hand like this. It is oddly intimate and thrills her to her very bones. And because he's Max and not trained to act like something big is nothing, like it's uncool to feel things, he squeezes her hand and beams at her. Like, that passage is just so adorable. I love it. Alright, so that's all I have to say for now. I will be back with more thoughts later after I read some more, whether that be when I finish this or if something else happens that I feel like I need to talk about. That's kind of an ominous way to end the chapter. And I just had the thought of, like, what if Max actually wants her to stay trapped in the hotel and never leave, because she says, friends can leave you, girlfriends can leave you, ghosts can't. Like, oh. And he's supposed to be helping her escape. At that moment, she has that thought where, like, what if he wants her to stay forever? And if she's a ghost, then she can't leave. And he'll get his wish. But I don't know. I think he probably does want her to not leave, but I don't think he would be that cruel. I think he generally wants to help her escape because she wants to escape. And plus, like, he says he can only talk to the ghosts sometimes, so if she becomes a ghost, he might not even be able to talk to her. Oh, chapter 28 is like one of those chapters that we get from like someone else's perspective, so not Anna's perspective and not Max's perspective, but someone else who clearly like is a piece of the puzzle in the plot of what's going on at this hotel. No, this person is awful. I feel like these other chapter perspectives show that, like, even though the hotel on the surface is like this magical, wondrous place, there's also darkness that lurks within it. I feel like this book is definitely fantasy, but also, like, in a way, it's also kind of like a thriller and suspense book. And it's very much giving me the vibes of Carvel by Stephanie Garber, because in that book, you never really knew what was going on, who you could trust, and what was real. And that's how this feels. Like, you don't know who to trust. You don't know what's going on. The plot is twisty-turvy. And, like, what is real? What is going on? Hi, so it's now Friday, September 5th, and I'm here for reading update, which is that I finished Midnight at the Houdini. So I finished this yesterday, and I'm giving this 5 stars. I loved this. So there were 2 things that really made this book for me, and that was the romance and the setting of a magic hotel. As I mentioned earlier, the romance between Max and Anna is just so cute and sweet, and I just loved it. And I loved how the two of them, how their personalities complement each other. So because of that, they challenge each other's beliefs and help each other look at situations from new angles. And I know that I mentioned earlier that I had some problems with Anna's character in the beginning, but by the end of this book, I ended up loving Anna as a character. And I feel like the book just did a really good job exploring her character and developing her as a character. And I also loved Max as a character. He's very much a gentleman. He's a cinnamon roll character. And he grew up in this magical hotel, and so he believes in magic, but he also wants to see more. He wants to see the real world. But before Anna's arrival, he's almost given up on this because every single time he's tried to get out of the hotel has always ended in failure. And in addition to loving the romance and loving Max and Anna as characters, I also love the setting of a magical hotel. This magical hotel is called the Houdini, and I love the atmosphere of it. It feels wondrous and magical. There are white rabbits that will guide you places, ferocious pink poodles, and an oven in one of the restaurants that leads you to a dollhouse in a toy store that is in the hotel. Also, this hotel is kind of like stuck in the 1900s, so the decor reflects that. And at one point, Max remarks that the most recent book in the library there is from the 1960s. And so it's like really this place that's kind of just like frozen in time. And also it has a mind of its own, so it's very much alive. And in that way, it's kind of like the house from Where the Dark Stands Still or Hall's Castle from Hall's Whipping Castle. And I feel like Max best describes a hotel's nature when he says on page 100, "Sometimes it wants to help you, and sometimes it seems to actively work against you. I found all sorts of wonderful things, but I've also had things I liked taken from me and never returned. I found places once and never again. Things shift. Like a poltergeist, but a thoughtful one. I think of it like a playful and mischievous child." And so that 100% describes the character of this hotel. And this is a standing loan, so everything did wrap up in the end, and I liked how everything ended up. And I would say that fall is definitely like the perfect time to read this because it is magical and whimsical, but also has like a slightly unsettling, airy tone to it as well. And so I would definitely recommend this if it sounds like something you're interested in. So, now that I finished this, we're gonna wrap up this video. So just a quick recap of what I read. So I read 3 books and they were all 5 stars, which is amazing. And they're all just very different from each other as well. So the first book I read was The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore by Lori Gilmore. This one was very cute and sweet, but also spicy. Then the second book I read was A Pack for Autumn, which was also cute and cozy, but very, very spicy. And it had really good fall vibes. And then the third book was the one I just talked about, Midnight at the Houdini. And so I would recommend any of these if they sound like the right book for you. And let me know down below if you've read any of these, what you thought of them. Let me know what you're excited to read this fall. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!